Now let's try to recap what we have discussed in this section. We started this section with a discussion around authentication provider, what is its role inside the Spring Security architecture, and what are the scenarios that we need to go for an option of customizing this authentication provider so that we can skip off adhering to the user details and user detail service, user details manager contract provided by Spring Security. We also looked at the definitions of authentication provider, authentication manager, and the methods inside them, and observe that authentication provider has two methods, authenticate and supports, whereas authentication manager has only one method, which is authenticate. The difference between authentication provider and authentication manager is only supports method. Post that we also discussed about the important interface, which is authentication followed by principal, and how they are similar to user details, and also looked at how the user details will be converted to authentication object in the scenarios where we are using the default authentication provider, which is DAO authentication provider from the Spring Security framework. After that, we also looked into the provider manager and DAO authentication provider, which are default implementations of authentication manager and authentication provider inside Spring Security. And we saw like how provider manager handles all the providers configured inside my application, how it will loop each provider by provider, and how it performs authentication by calling the authenticate method inside all the providers. Finally, we enhanced our application to have a custom authentication provider and perform authentication using it without any issues. With that, we are concluding the authentication provider concept. If you have any questions, please post in the Q&A section. Thank you and bye.